Friends, patriots, Americans, the unthinkable has happened. Trump has returned to power, and the consequences for American education will be catastrophic. This isn't just about policy, it's about control, it's about shaping young minds, it's about indoctrinating a generation into a system rigged against them. They want to control your children, to turn them into mindless consumers, obedient workers, and unquestioning citizens. This is a hostile takeover, a coup d'etat of our education system. They'll tell you it's about reform, about choice, about parental rights. Don't believe the lies. This is about power, plain and simple. The globalist elite, the deep state, the puppet masters pulling the strings, they're terrified of an educated, informed populace. They fear critical thinking, they fear dissent, they fear the truth. And what better way to crush those threats than to dismantle the very system designed to foster them? This isn't just an attack on education, it's an attack on America itself. This is a fight for the future of our nation, for the hearts and minds of our children. We must expose their agenda, resist their every move, and fight back against this tyranny with everything we have. They may have won this battle, but the war is far from over. The first casualty in this war? The Department of Education. They'll gut it, defund it, dismantle it piece by piece. Mark my words, they'll replace it with a system designed to benefit the wealthy, the privileged, the chosen few. Private schools, charter schools, voucher programs, these are the tools of the elite. They'll funnel public funds into private hands, creating a two-tiered system that leaves the rest of us behind. And what about the programs designed to help those most in need? Title I funding for low-income schools? Gone. Pell Grants for disadvantaged students? Slashed. Student loan forgiveness? A distant memory. They'll claim it's about fiscal responsibility, but we know the truth. They want to keep the poor down, to deny them the opportunity to rise above their circumstances. They want a permanent underclass, a pool of cheap labor to exploit. This is about more than just education. It's about perpetuating a system of economic inequality, of social stratification. They're creating a generation of debt slaves, saddled with crippling loans, forced to work dead-end jobs just to stay afloat. Don't be fooled by their rhetoric. This is class warfare, and they're winning. Diversity, equity, inclusion. These words are anathema to the Trump regime. They'll defund any program that dares to challenge the status quo, to expose the systemic racism and inequality baked into the American experiment. Critical race theory? Forget about it. They'll brand it as divisive, as un-American, as a threat to national unity. They'll rewrite history books, whitewashing the past, erasing the struggles of marginalized communities. They'll replace it with a sanitized version of the past, one that glorifies the oppressors and silences the oppressed. They'll tell your children that slavery was a necessary evil, that Jim Crow was a time of separate but equal, that systemic racism is a figment of the liberal imagination. Don't believe a word of it. They're trying to control the narrative, to shape the way your children see the world. This isn't just about education, it's about thought control. They want to create a generation that's blind to injustice, that accepts inequality as the natural order of things. Don't let them get away with it. The LGBTQ+ community is under attack, and nowhere is this more evident than in our schools. They're coming for your children, folks. They want to erase their identities, to force them back into the closet, to deny their very existence. Title IX protections? Gone. Gender-affirming care? Banned. They'll claim it's about protecting children, about preserving traditional values, about religious freedom. Don't be fooled by their bigotry. This is about hate, plain and simple. They want to turn back the clock, to return to a time when LGBTQ+ individuals were forced to live in the shadows, to deny their true selves. They want to create a climate of fear and intimidation, where LGBTQ+ youth are afraid to be themselves, to express their identities. They'll tell your children that they're confused, that they're sinners, that they're going to hell. Don't let them poison their minds. This is about more than just education. It's about the fundamental human right to exist, to be who you are, to love who you love. Victims silenced, turning back the clock on sexual assault justice. They'll tell you it's about due process, about protecting the rights of the accused. But we know the truth. They're creating a hostile environment for survivors, making it harder for them to come forward to seek justice. Title IX protections? Gutted. Campus assault investigations? Hampered. They want to silence victims, to protect predators, to sweep sexual violence under the rug. They'll stack the courts with judges who believe that women are lying, that survivors are exaggerating, that sexual assault is a he said she said situation. They'll make it harder for victims to obtain restraining orders, to access counseling services, to seek legal recourse. They'll create a culture of impunity where perpetrators are free to abuse without consequence. Don't let them get away with it. We must believe survivors, support them, and fight for their right to justice. This is about more than just education. It's about creating a society where all students feel safe, respected, and protected. Section 6. Parental rights weaponized. A Trojan horse for control. They'll tell you it's about empowering parents, about giving them a voice in their children's education. But we know the truth. They're using parental rights as a Trojan horse, a way to inject their own ideology into the classroom. Book bans, rampant, curriculum censorship, widespread. They want to control what your children read, what they learn, what they think. They'll replace science with creationism, history with propaganda, and critical thinking with blind obedience. They'll pack school boards with ideologues, with extremists, with people who believe the Earth is 6,000 years old and that climate change is a hoax. They'll turn our schools into indoctrination centers, churning out generations of compliant consumers and unquestioning citizens. This isn't about education, it's about control. They want to mold your children in their image, to create a generation that reflects their own narrow worldview. Don't let them turn our schools into battlegrounds for their culture wars. We must fight for an education system that values critical thinking, diversity of thought, and the pursuit of truth. Section 7. Free speech, muzzled, dissent, silenced under a veil of order. They claim to be champions of free speech, but their actions speak louder than words. They'll silence any voice that dares to challenge their authority, to question their motives, to expose their lies. Campus protests, shut down. Student activism, suppressed. They'll use the guise of law and order to justify their crackdown on dissent. They'll brand anyone who disagrees with them as a radical, a socialist, a threat to national security. They'll create a climate of fear and intimidation where students are afraid to speak their minds, to express their beliefs, to engage in open dialogue. They'll tell you it's about protecting students, about maintaining order, about preventing chaos, but we know the truth. They're terrified of critical thinking, of independent thought, of an informed and engaged citizenry. This isn't about education, it's about control. They want to create a generation that's afraid to question authority, to challenge the status quo, to fight for a better world. Section 8. Profiteers in the shadows. Who benefits from educational carnage? Don't be fooled, folks. This isn't just about ideology. This is about money. Big money. Private education companies, textbook publishers, testing corporations, they're all licking their chops, ready to feast on the carcass of public education. They'll swoop in, offering their solutions, their innovations, their reforms. But it's all a sham, a way to line their pockets at the expense of our children. They'll push their standardized tests, their online learning platforms, their privatized charter schools. They'll drain public funds, leaving our schools starved for resources, our teachers overworked and underpaid. They'll tell you it's about efficiency, about accountability, about competition, but we know the truth. It's about profit, plain and simple. They're turning education into a commodity, a product to be bought and sold on the open market. And the quality of our children's education? That's just collateral damage. Don't let them get away with it. We must expose their greed, their corruption, their utter disregard for the well-being of our children. We must demand accountability, transparency, and a commitment to putting our children first. Section 9. A call to action. Unmasking the truth. Reclaiming our schools. This is a 5-alarm fire, folks. This is a call to arms. We cannot stand idly by while they dismantle our education system, while they rob our children of their future. We must fight back, and we must fight back now. Educate yourselves, talk to your friends, your family, your neighbors. Expose the truth about what's happening in our schools. Attend school board meetings, run for office, support organizations fighting for educational justice. Donate your time, your money, your energy. Every little bit helps. This isn't just about our children, it's about the soul of our nation. Education is the foundation of a free and just society. It's the key to a brighter future. We cannot let them take it away from us. We must stand up, speak out, and fight back against this tyranny with everything we have. The time for complacency is over. The time for action is now. Join the fight!